What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Champion Living Podcast, the only podcast crossing the lines between the sport of rodeo and fitness. Today's episode, we have a very special guest on board, Josh Frost. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Good, man. We're excited to have you on. Logan, Paul, how are you guys doing today?
Man, we're good. Just chilling. We survived snow apocalypse over here, and it's good.
Yeah,
man.
Snowmageddon.
Yeah, Snowmageddon. It's man, we're no busted pipes, so we're good.
Hey, that's a win.
Yeah,
that's a win. You did have some frozen pipes, though.
Yeah, but they didn't bust, so it doesn't really count. You know, I just had to army crawl underneath the house 47,000 times with a hair dryer and heat lamps.
Hair dryer, yeah.
All that stuff plugged up. Yeah, so. Other than that, though,
Logan FaceTimed me from under the house.
Yeah, well, I was a little scared. I didn't want to go by myself.
That was hilarious. He just FaceTimes me, and it's like he like pops up on the screen, and he's just like in this like space just closed around him. I'm like, where are you? He's like, I'm under the house. I just thought you would appreciate this. The pipes are frozen solid. He's down there with a blow dryer trying to defrost them, and I'm like, dude, that's gonna take a minute. He goes, yeah, I've been down here for a while. I was dying.
Oh, it sucks so bad. Oh my gosh!
Probably like frozen pipes, you pansies.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, up here it's freezing, but we're built up here, and like same for Josh in Utah. Right. Like I'm sure, like your house is made for that. Like,
my pipes
down
actually
there, you guys are a little different.
Did freeze, but I just stuck a heater underneath the house and it defrosted it right away. So maybe next time try that.
You know, that was the next step. I was afraid of burning my house down, to be completely honest with you. But that was definitely the next. That was
wouldn't use a
propane
heater, probably.
Yeah, I could see that going down.
My granddad actually did that one time. I guess like when my dad was really little, like a toddler maybe. Supposedly it wasn't a house. Well, I mean, it was their house, but it was an RV they were living in, and it was like winter or whatever. He got up underneath there with a propane torch and trying to thaw out some pipes and lit it on fire and burned that sucker to the ground. And, anyway, I guess it's funny now because I wasn't there. I don't think Grandma, if you listen to this, I'm sorry for laughing. I probably wasn't still not for you. Probably.
Apologize.
You know,
probably back before the insurance days too, huh?
yeah, like my grandparents had insurance. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, right. Oh man, Josh, let's get into you, man. This year was a great year for you, rodeo wise. The PRCA is absolutely terrible at uploading all the stats, so none of your 2022 stats are up yet. But I am most certain you passed $1 million in PRCA earnings this year. Is that correct?
I wouldn't even know, but that does actually sound correct. Off of the last time I looked, I think with this year I should be over $1 million.
Man, pretty cool feat to accomplish there. And is this your fourth NFR?
Third NFR.
Third NFR. Okay. I saw you went in 16, 19, had a couple dry years, and then
19, 21, 22.
Okay, there it is. I'm just a little backwards on my numbers. But, you know, as you're getting older, what do you notice is the big change in you know, mentally, physically? Do you feel like getting older is better, like, you know, like some fine wine, or do you feel like, you know, you're trending towards this typical aging thing that we do where guys don't get better as we get older?
I would say my body feels the getting older. I have to work harder now than I did before. But as you know, like, you know, I think I was 24 the first year I made the NFR, and I've definitely had to work harder at it. You know, I've tried to, since I was a rookie, I think I was 20. My rookie year was 2015. And so I've been trying to make the NFR for 4 years, didn't make it, was a top 30 guy. And it's just had to change the mix up, you know, like I've always worked really hard, always put in the time and effort. But I mean, at the end of the day, I wasn't good enough was the reason I didn't make the NFR. And so, you know, more practice bulls, and made the NFR in 19, went absolutely terrible, buck off all 10 bulls, and then just kept that, you know, but that really fired me up rolling into 2020 and came up short in 2020, ended up like 17th in the world. And then just kept pushing, kept practicing, started working out, started doing all the, you know, I thought I worked hard when I was 18, and I didn't do anything close to the stuff I'm doing now.
Yeah. Dude, it's so funny you say that, because I feel like when I was younger and working out, and I was one of the very few guys working out in my college team. And so I was like, oh man, I'm working so hard. I'm doing so much more than these other guys. And now I'm looking back and doing everything we do now. I'm like, man, I didn't know shit back then. I was just kind of faking it till I made it there. And no wonder it didn't work out very well for me, but it's cool to hear.
Going to the gym one time a week didn't work?
Yeah, what? Hey man, I was more than the other guys.
That was what I did. I went like once a week, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to the finals this year.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, you talked about your first year being 2015. What was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome when you started pro rodeoing? Wow, words are tough this morning. All right. Yeah, what was the biggest obstacle you think in that first year? Maybe the first 2 years, because you said, you first year, then so you went for 4 years before you made your first finals. So kind of talk about those obstacles, and you're talking about how coming up short really fueled that fire. Just talk about, what that really means to you.
The big, like I said it earlier, I honestly didn't ride bulls good enough to make it. But that being said, like I just wasn't super consistent. Like I could stay on, I'd be 88 points one day and then buck off 7 bulls in a row that bucked the same as the bull I was 88 on. But so the mental maturity, came with the time and effort I've put in. But the biggest deal for me was learning how to stay healthy, which is, it's hard to say that as a bull rider, but that was my goal in 2019. I knew that if I could stay healthy all season, I could make the NFR. And back to 2015, I won. I think I won $50,000 on my permit. In 2014, I was like $500 short. At the time, Sage had the record for the most money won on his permit and the bull riding, and I was like 500 short of beating him. And he'd beat the permit record, came in winning world championships. So, young Josh was like, shit, I almost beat the permit record. Like 2015, I'm going to be the next Sage Kimsey world champion. Didn't happen like that. I had wrist surgery, knee surgery right after the circuit finals in 2014. And so but I should have waited a year to even buy my card, but I was, thinking I was the next Sage Kimsey. And they took my cast off in February. I was entered in San Antonio. It was my riding hand that I'd got surgery on. And we actually went to the sell barn in Texoma, Oklahoma, and bought me 2 big, 800-pound steers. I couldn't even stay on these steers. My wrist hurt so bad. I don't know what I thought was going to happen when I went to San Antonio. But go to San Antonio, I draw literally 3 of Benny Butler's, all 3 of the bulls that I drew were fresh out of the eliminator pen from the NFR. And moral of the story, I get slammed, don't make it past the end of the gate on all 3 of them, and I didn't stay on a bull at the PRCA rodeo for 6 months my rookie year. That was February. It was July before I got a bull road. And finally took a little time there. Like the wrist was really bothering me, but I was just trying to toughen up, kept getting on, stayed on a few at the college rodeos. But more or less that just started a bad spur of injuries every year after that. The biggest deal would be I'd start the season really good, get in the top. I'd be in the top 15 right about Reno, and then people would start passing me over the 4th of July. I'd start panicking. Come August, I'd be hanging off the side of bulls, and like I said, from 15 all the way through up till 19, I got hurt in August, whether broken leg, hematoma, just anything that could have happened to me. And so for that 2019 season, I really reflected on okay, why am I getting hurt? It was partially I was pressuring up because, I wouldn't say I was purposely getting hurt, but that was my subconscious more or less. It was easier to get hurt in August than say that I couldn't make the NFR, I guess. And, but like I said, hanging off the side, I started taking better care of myself, and sometimes you just get beat, and it's better to stay healthy and ride the next day than it is to get hurt. And so that was going into 2019. I just really focused on taking care of myself better and not getting hung up all the time. I switched to a Brazilian rope and did those things, and sure enough, stayed healthy all of 2019 and made the NFR.
Man, that's really cool. I think that's that lesson right there is so hard to learn, and it's something that a lot of guys go through, I think, and never do learn. They just think that it's like, oh, I just keep getting hurt. Oh, I just can never catch a break. Instead of this, all right, I'm getting hurt every August. Like, what is going on? Why is that happening? And it's, looking back, okay, lack of lots of things, mental preparation, physical preparation. You talk about that panic, like that's mental, right? 100% is saying, I can't ride shit. Like guys are passing me. Like I've got to do everything different now. And that's just not the case. It's usually just going back to those fundamentals is what get us there. So, sometimes it takes a few years and a few seasons to learn. And I think it's an incredibly valuable lesson, though, especially if you do actually learn it and soak it up, because now you look at where you are, and the path of your career since then has been pretty dang cool. And it's only these last 2 years has been incredibly impressive. And, you talk about you're lacking the consistency rates, and I think you're probably one of the most consistent bull riders in pro rodeo now. What's different now? Besides, obviously working out played a good role in it, but I know you do a lot of different things. So kind of fill us in on that.
I like I said, the working out helps. We kind of hit on that earlier, but I did work out even in college. Like I've kind of worked out forever. Like I wrestled through high school, but that being said, there's a lot being said of working smarter, not harder. And more often than not, the stuff I was doing before was not actually productive for bull riding, like going and seeing how much, getting in the gym and squatting and benching and like at the end of the day.
How much can I puke today? How many times can I make myself throw up in the gym today? And then I did a lot.
But on the consistency side was just at the end of the day, it's all mental. Like I look at bull riding as there's the skill, the physical aspect, and then the mental aspect. And through my younger years, it seemed like I'd always worked on one or the other. Like I'd be reading self-help books, working on my mental game, but then I wasn't working on my skill, wasn't working on my fitness. And the last couple of years, I've really realized it's like it's a triangle, and if you miss one of the three aspects, it's when you hit all three is when you start seeing huge growth. And last year was, like I said, last winter was the best winter I was having, or would have been the winter of 2021 was really riding good. I think I was top 3 in the world, but it was still, I still wasn't riding as good as, or I wasn't quite as consistent as Sage. And that was when I stumbled on it, Paige Lawrence. And so I had heard about people having mental coaches, and like it was something I thought about, but I was kind of always did it on myself and was more or less looking at ways to invest in myself. And so I signed up with her, started working with her, actually having a mental coach, talking to her once a week. And that has helped tremendously. And like I said, I still work with her now, but I would say a lot of the mental stuff I've learned in a I got to the point in 2021 where I rode good enough to ride 65% of my bulls, but was still I was getting bucked off at bulls I knew I should have rode, and it was mental mistakes. And so that's something that's helped tremendously.
Man, the whole time you were telling that first part of your story about the struggles that you had, I couldn't help but think, that's not too far. That's the ordinary. That's probably what most guys going down the road are going through, especially those guys that find themselves having a good winter. Maybe they get a little too high on their horse there and are thinking like, yeah, I'm definitely going to make the finals because I'm in the top 20 here in the first few months of the season. And then the injuries stack up and all the other things like you kind of outlined there. But the approach that you take, the triangle that you kind of said, I know that y'all take your whole family, you and your brothers both have this unique approach to practice bulls. And I think that it's 100% the way that everybody should train and prepare. So like kind of how do you choose, like you guys have all calibers of bulls at the place. So like, how do you choose what bulls you're going to get on? Like, what's your approach when you go into practice?
Like I said, my practice, I feel like the actual getting on the practice bulls has really helped with my success a lot. And I've changed it. Everybody's probably seen the jump kickers we get on. And that being said, Joe, my older brother, he made the NFR 5 times, always had he won over 100,000 every year he made the finals. He would strictly get on a jump kickers. He had 2 jump kickers, nothing else. The one year he got on a couple spinning bulls, that was the worst finals he ever had. So 2019, I rode jump kickers. I probably got on maybe too many, but then I got on probably 50 head in the month of October and November, and did terrible. Like I said, I bucked off all 10 bulls. And so I had to kind of reevaluate why that was. And for me, I look at it like I rope calves too. And Tyson Durfee had said, like, when he practices, he goes about 70% speed 80% of the time. So that, for me, that would be a jump kicker. But I was never going full speed in the practice pen. And so since then, I try to get it. I have a couple, I have some ranker bulls or some bulls that spin. And so about 70% of the time, I'm getting on the jump kickers or the bulls where I can do everything perfect. But then once a week, I'd get on a bull that bucked a little harder and push myself. And the last two NFRs, it translated a lot better. I rode 7 out of 10 both years. And that's a big thing, I think, for everybody to look at if you're practicing and you're getting bucked off all the time, you need to find easier bulls. And it's so hard in the bull riding because there's so many rank bulls now and the stock contractors that just want to get outs on their bulls. But as a bull rider, young bull rider, even professional guys, like, you need to be making the whistle 80% of the time in the practice pen. And then 20% of the time you need to be pushing yourself to get better. But if you're not making the whistle, you're not getting better.
That's so true, man. We talk about that in the horse riding too. And it's just kind of where we're at in the rodeo realm right now. And so many people buying livestock, raising bucking livestock. They want to get outs, like you said. So they have these practice pins. And we've all been there, whether it's horses or bulls, you want to go practice. You want to get better. That's how you think you need to do it. But you don't know any better than to not get on those caliber of animals, because there's no way that's going to help you. That things are happening way too fast. You were not prepared. It's not going to go well. It's just going to teach bad habits and destroy your confidence. So getting on solid practice is such a key thing when it comes to, bettering yourself as an athlete. And it was funny, like you said, the bulls you're getting on, you know exactly what they're going to do. But like even the video that you posted before you came to the finals of that, Red Bull, it just goes out there and he just dead stops, and it's just like, you just never know what they're going to do. But it also shows that, like, he's not this 24-point bull you're getting on at practice. He is the absolute fundamentals that you are like, I do the basics perfect. That's what rides every bull, right? So it's just cool to see you getting on that and sharing that with everybody, because the more people that see it, the more people that know that that's what it's supposed to be like, the better the sport's going to get, because we're going to have more guys getting better at riding bulls. And
yeah, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. You won the average last year and second in the average this year. You said 7 out of 10 both times. Yeah, I mean, that obviously that training approach is working. So the more people that can adopt that, I think that's only going to elevate the sport.
Absolutely. And same thing with the horses, like with Rocker, like same thing. Exactly. It's hard sometimes to get those resources, but if you can find them, go use them as much as you possibly can, because it's only going to help.
Well, and that's the other big part is our sport is dangerous, but trying to make it as safe as possible. And there are people that have access to bullfighters. We don't have my dad and brother were the bullfighter, and their bullfighting consists of them sitting on the fence yelling, "Run or open your hand." So I make it a priority. Like, I don't buy mean bulls. They have to handle good. And that's it allows me to get on a lot of practice bulls as safe as possible, because even if I do get, like I said, I'm still staying on probably 95% of the time in the practice pen, but I'm not worried about, I better get off because this bull's going to eat my lunch, And
right.
So those are things to look for. And it was like, as soon as I started making that a priority, hey, I need good practice bulls, I'll be looking all year. And, and every year is stock contract, those 7-8-year-old bulls that have been hauled for 4 years, they're the ones that you can buy them for $2,000 to $3,000, and they're right at the end of their rodeo career. But if you take them home and just practice on them, shoot, you get another 2-3 years out of them. And they, but it's something I'm looking for all year long. And every year in October, I'll buy one or two good practice bulls and and pinpointing the things that I need to work on for them 2 months. Like these were the, kind of self-evaluate my year. Like, man, I bucked off more bulls away from my hand. So I make sure I get something that I can work on that for during the 2 months of kind of the off season.
Man, that's so smart, and is a great way to, just hammer those fundamentals that you need to. And it's in bull riding, any kind of rodeo, like it's all pretty simple when it comes to the fundamentals. Like there's not a ton of things going on. Maybe the calf roping, there is more going on than the other events. But we talk about in the training world, like events, tasks with not a lot of things going on. They're very simple, are very easy to heighten the person's arousal rate during those things. Meaning it's very easy to get to this point where you can't control how you're thinking, how you're doing things, because it's so simple that you're overdoing everything. So it's cool to hear, you talking about when you're buying your practice bulls, you just do the things that are going to make you better at those fundamentals, so you can control that arousal when you get to the competition. For anyone listening, I think that's a really important aspect of training. A lot of people don't get, and especially in these sports, these route stock sports, the arousal going up is very likely for somebody to the point where you're not able to do the basics perfect because you're so overwhelmed by your own head. And I was one of those people.
Yeah, that's the biggest obstacle in the rough stock events. Like you said, they're simple. There's not, even in like the bareback riding, a horse is going to travel forward usually, one might turn back, but like there's not a lot, like everything's kind of straightforward, straight back. And the bull riding is not a whole lot different. And, the real battle is right between your ears. And I think that Josh has a really good system for, overcoming that mental obstacle.
Absolutely. And it's become, it's from investments he's made as well, in his practice, in his mindset, in his physical preparation. All of those things combined now have made his triangle, and he is rocking and rolling. We talk about that all the time, and, you can have almost all the pieces of the puzzle, but the puzzle's still not going to look that great until you get that last piece. And so once you have all those pieces, it looks a lot better. We talked about physical preparation, mindset. Let's talk about equipment a little bit, because all of it, again, is pieces of the puzzle. How important is it to have good equipment and have trust in the equipment that you're riding?
Oh, it's, I guess it's a big part of it. That's how we make our living. And you see so many guys that are been using the same bull rope for 5 years, and their spurs are falling off. And I kind of learned this from Sage, rodeoing with him. Like, he's a huge equipment guy, and up until going with him, like, I had good equipment but wasn't super on top of it. And it's one of those things, if it can improve your bull riding, your chance of staying on by 1% over the course of the season, that adds up to a lot of money. And so when you start doing all these little things via the triangle, via the equipment, having good spurs, good rowels, a rope that feels good. A new bull rope's $350. I'll go, I used to ride with the same rope for 2 years, and I go through 4 ropes a year now, just because to spend $2,000 on bull ropes to win 400, 500,000, it's pretty simple in my mind. But it's something that a lot of people don't realize. It's a cowboy mentality. It's fine, just use that bull rope, use that rigging, but you start looking at the top guys, like that, their equipment is top of the line, and it removes something you don't have to worry about. That's the one thing that's one of the one things you can control in rodeo is your equipment. And so having good equipment can really go a long ways.
That's the truth, man. And I got to give a big shout out to Beastmaster Pro Rodeo. They are sponsor of this podcast. I know they are sponsor of you as well. Do you want to talk about why you choose them and why they're the best out there and why you trust them with your equipment?
Honestly, it's everybody that's rodeo, it's probably tried to get online and buy something or showed up at your local Tractor Supply, or it's hard to find good rodeo equipment, and Beastmaster is one of the first places that you can get on their website. And whether it's your first time getting equipment, or like I said, I'm one of the top guys in the world, and it's a company that actually understands what good equipment is. Like, they're not selling the cheap saddle barn bull rope. Like, you can get on there and actually get a legit American or Brazilian bull rope that the top guys in the world are using. along with the rowels, shafts,
Yeah.
spurs. Like and they've got anything from if you're just wanting to try it, you can get something cheap that's more of a beginner type of equipment to a pair of sling and shank spurs if you want them.
It's so cool, man. It's the one-stop shop really for rodeo. And you can, anybody listening, check them out, beastmasterrodeo.com. You can use our discount code Champion Living. It's all one word. It's going to save you some money when you get anything from their website. We can't, again, thank them enough for being a sponsor of this podcast. Dude, I want to kind of get into the family side of everything for you. You know, Frost, a really famous last name in, you know, bull riding world, rodeo, shit, even the entire world through 8 seconds and things like that. Is there any pressure felt, you know, due to the attention of things like that growing up now? How does that, if it does, affect you?
Oh, there was definitely pressure especially when I was a kid, you know, which I was good because we practiced. Like, I was very blessed that, you know, we ranched. And so my dad was a bull rider. I wanted to ride bulls because my dad was a bull rider. And so when we told my dad we wanted to ride bulls, he went and bought us some Holstein calves. But I remember showing up to rodeos as a kid, and people, you know, they thought I was going to win because of, you know, I had to be good at bull riding because I was related to Lane Frost, which that was a lot of pressure for a young kid because I didn't know how to be good. Like, it was just because you know, even though my last name was Frost, I was no different than Paul or Doug or Logan, you know. Like, the only way I got good at my skill was by practicing that. And so there was dang sure I had to learn to deal with that pressure a little bit. And then as the older I've got, like, you know, it really don't matter it didn't matter. I finally realized that I was good at bull riding because I was working hard at it and loved it. And then at that point I was able to embrace the last name, I guess. And it's a legacy that I'm proud of. I think it's cool being a part of a family that's notorious for riding bulls. And, you know, I probably had some better opportunities than other people not because of the last name, but just because of the being raised on a ranch and having access to good practice stock. But
Absolutely, man. That's super cool. And I couldn't imagine. I was sitting here thinking about it, like, as a young athlete, that would be a hard thing to overcome and to go with, because it's just unsaid pressure, pretty much. You know, like you were saying, you show up to the bull ride and everyone expects you, oh, his last name's Frost, he's got to be really good. It's like, nope, that doesn't work that way.
And like I said, I didn't only have it from, you know, from the Lane Frost aspect. I had an older brother that was super successful too. You know, he was junior high national champ, high school national champ, college national champ. And I probably felt more pressure from that than even the Lane Frost deal, just because, like, when you and your brother were entered at the same rodeo and Joe goes and wins, you're expected to win also. And like I said, I was probably late maturing on the mental game of the consistency aspect of, I honestly didn't know how I stayed on. I just tried really hard. And so like, it didn't matter what bull I drew. I couldn't tell you if I was going to make the whistle or not, but I was going to put out 110% effort. And sometimes I made the whistle, sometimes I didn't, but I couldn't, you know, if anybody asked me how I did it, and whereas Joe, I think he had a better grasp on his mental game from a younger, you know, from the time he was in junior high. It was, I guess, easier for him or simpler. And like I said, so he had more success from an earlier age. But with him and Lane, you know, there was dang sure a lot of pressure to be a good bull rider.
Man, I can't imagine the pressure. Like I mean, you said it perfectly, but like the pressure of having a really successful older brother, like I can't even imagine that. But, you know, guys like you and Trey Kimsey and Jake Lockwood, like, and you know, Trey and Jake are both, you know, on a really solid trajectory now too, like where they're, you know, seeing a lot of success in their own careers. So, you know, guys like you and them, that would be a super tough road to walk. But I mean, obviously you're doing it pretty well.
Well, I think the big part, and you see it with, you know, with Trey and Jake, like, everybody's path to success is different. And so you've got to, Trey can't do exactly what Sage did, you know, and there was a point that I was doing, you know, the first year for the NFR, I prepared exactly like Joe did. what worked for him did not work for me. And so that's where it's like said, everyone's path to success is different, and it don't matter what your last name is or who your brother is. You've got to figure out your own mixture of things that you need to do to allow you to be successful, because maybe your brother don't, like Sage, don't get on practice bulls. This year before the NFR, Trey was getting on practice bulls, had the best rode way better at the NFR than he did in 2019.
Absolutely. And, that's so important that it is different for everyone, and you have to find what works for you, and taking pieces from different guys and using what works is the best way to do that, for sure. Let's talk about this year and how it was different than the years before, and then kind of your plans for this coming year. As you've continued on your career, things have changed, the sport's evolving. Obviously firsthand, I know this because we've been training together for the last 2 years, that you've been putting a lot of effort into your preparation. At home, obviously everybody's getting after it, but what really matters, and we say this all the time, is getting to Pendleton and not being so stored up that you can't use that time to prepare for the NFR. What does your preparation on the road look like? Last year we had a phase where you didn't stay as consistent as you wanted to. And I know this year you want to change that. So what was the biggest difference that you felt when you were staying consistent in your mobility versus obviously when you're not?
I guess the biggest change going into which I already hit on it, the importance of staying healthy. And I wouldn't say I got a little lax this year later in the summer, but a lot of it was the rodeo rig I was in. Last summer I was with Sage was going, so we were in the RV. It was super easy getting those workouts in and stuff. And it's one of those ones I'd drive for 3 hours, and then when I wasn't driving, I'd be in the back of the RV, laid out in the bed, stretched out. Whereas this summer, Sage gets shoulder surgery June, and all of a sudden we're about to take off for the 4th of July run, and all I've got's a minivan, and Tyler Bingham had a truck. And so luckily we end up finding a camper to throw on his truck, but even the truck and camper, it seemed like all summer I was either driving or sitting in the passenger seat. And so even the little bit of mobility stuff you had me do, which middle of the summer, we had it pretty light, but that 30 minutes of mobility, I don't think was counteracting the 12 hours sitting in the seat position of the vehicle. And
right.
So that being said, and I didn't listen to my body. I was getting on a lot of, like I said, I love entering hard. I feel like I'm tougher than most everybody else, more mentally strong. Like I want to go every single day. And I didn't listen to my body I drew Cool Whip at Caldwell, 7.8 seconds. And I mean, I was squeezing as tight as you could squeeze a bull. Like I was really wanting to stay on that one.
Yeah.
And after that, both of my groins were really sore, but they weren't pulled. And so I got on 5-6 more times after that, was riding really good, at that point I'd been 50,000 behind Stetson after Houston. And it just seemed like I couldn't catch up, and we'd stayed the same. And finally in that 2 weeks of Caldwell, I had cut it down to like 32,000 rolled, but the groins were sore at that time. Didn't take any time off, just kept getting on. And come Bremerton, I was 88 points. I won the bull ride, and while I was on that bull, I felt my groin pop. And then after that, it was I think I really was picky of where I got on after that, but I only rode 4 out of 10 bulls, bucked off everything at Pendleton. I think I won like 10,000, and Stetson won another 75,000. But and as I've looked back on it, that's the only thing I think where I was spending so much time in a vehicle in the sitting position, I should have talked to you and got more on the mobility and made sure I was getting a light 45-minute workout in or something, just to get the blood pumping and moving. And then also too, the listening to my body and realizing, hey, like groins are sore. Let's take a 10-day and be back healthy for Ellensburg and finish, win another 80,000 through the month of September. But
absolutely, man. And that's just, lesson learned, easy thing. That's an easy thing to fix. Well, essentially it is, but when you get in the heat of the moment, when you're so competitive, it's kind of tough, because you're like, F that, like I'm going to catch him and I'm going to keep going. Everything's gonna be fine. But In the grand spectrum of things, when you look back, it's usually a better idea to listen to the body and, take that 10-day. And also just no matter how bad and tired you are and you don't want to do it, doing those mobility, doing a little bit of activation is going to counteract a lot of that shortening that's going on when you're sitting. And I'm sure Logan's feeling it too, but like we're studying for a certification for an exam, and it's quite tedious. And so I'm sitting a lot more and studying. Haven't studied in 10, 13 years. It's been a long time, so kind of getting used to this like student thing again, but my back and my hip flexors hurt so damn bad. Like after this is my second week of studying, and I'm like, last night I was doing mobility for probably 45 minutes just on my lower back and my hips and my hip flexors. I was like, I'm going to have to do this every day to literally counteract it, or else I'm going to be in a world of hurt. So it's really important to stay after it. And like you said, you won 10 grand in that time that you were hurt, but what would have happened if you took a 10-day and won 75 grand, big differences. And the year end would have looked different then too, because the race would have been way different at that point. So it's cool to hear the elite learning lessons and still changing things. And that's what makes you better each year. And that's why I feel like with the addition of the physical stuff, the mental stuff, your nutrition, all those things, and then learning these lessons and implementing them, every year should get better with wisdom, right? You're learning more lessons, you're getting better. You are not having to go as hard, hopefully, and able to win more money, hopefully. Which again is, I think the sport's heading there, man. I think there's going to be more money added this year than there was last year. We saw that in the standings, which I think was probably, back in the day, when you started 15 to now, you had good years leading up to those NFRs, but it just took more to get to those NFRs every year, right? So I think it was Cole Fisher, is that who we were talking to, Paul? That he was like, I want to win every year. I was like, I need to win this amount. But it was the amount that it took last year to get in. And every year he'd come up like too short. And he's like, damn it. He's like, I'm short every time because it takes more every year. So then he made a different goal this year and made it. But it's cool, man. I think that there's big things ahead for rodeo. And I just love hearing the elite athletes talk about the things that y'all are still learning for our young athletes, because when we were starting, we really didn't have access to those kinds of stories or things that it kind of makes you feel normal when you're coming up in it. Cause you're like, oh man, he's going through that too. Like, oh, cool. He uses this tool to help him. Awesome. I'm going to try that. And again, hopefully how many people can we help, in the sport, and these little tips and things like see more success, which is going to drive them to go to more rodeos and obviously grow what we're doing in the sport that we love. You've accomplished some really big things in your career, and especially the last couple of years, reserve national champion in the bull riding, or world champion, I'm sorry. And then the Linderman Award winner the past 2 years. Has it been more than that?
I've won it 3 years in a row.
3 years in a row. So what are the goals looking like for this year, man? Like that's obviously a world title is in there.
Oh yeah, it's like I said, it's super excited for this year, and I have very big goals for my career in general. It's one of the things that I'm very goal driven. Like those are what the money's a plus, but I don't ride bulls for if I get on a bull and I'm just thinking about winning money, I don't ever stay on. For me, it's the long term, the world champion, and so that's the number one goal this year. World champion bull rider in the PRCA, going to win the Linderman Award again. They've kind of changed the format around for the PBRs to where you can pretty much go to more of a, used to be if once you cracked the top 35, you had to go to the UTBs or you got banned for a year. Well, they've changed it a little this year to where the UTB and velocity points are completely separate. And then one of my goals this year is to try to win the velocity tour, and then I'll qualify for the PB. I did it last year, qualified for the velocity finals, did good there, made the PBR finals. But so this winter, I'm going to go to a few more velocities on the weekends. I don't have big rodeos, and try to get a bunch of velocity points and win the velocity tour, go to the velocity finals, make the PBR finals again. Them are, like I said, two of the big goals for this year. But like I said, priority is the world champion in the PRCA. But
heck yeah. Quick question about the goals. So those are some pretty pretty high goals, and I think obviously very accomplishable. But are you, when you're sitting there throughout the year and you're looking at your goals, are you saying, I got to be a world champ, or I got to go win the Velocity Tour? Or are they more, do you have more process listed goals that would get you to those that you're focusing on?
Super process oriented, then what I call, I guess those would be my long-term goals. And like when I sit down and write them, you have to figure out what the goal, figure out what it's going to be to accomplish those. And so them are the thing that, for some reason I'm blank on the term, but they said those are the long term. And then the process goals for me would be doing my workouts, getting on practice bowls, how I enter, how I show up. It's the things that I can control every single day, and eating right. And like I said, when I set those goals and make that list, I really try to break it down into things that are measurable to, and I, like I said, I actually do this stuff with Paige, my mental coach, and it's cool. The last 2 years, we do a reflection before the, right when the season gets over, and we rank it out of 10, how 9 out of 10 were you at eating right, working out, doing these little goals. And it's crazy that by accomplishing all the little process goals, I've been extremely close to accomplishing my long-term goal. But it's
the outcome-based goals just happen
by doing the little things every day.
Yep. And that keeps it fathomable, meaning you can see it every day. You're like, I'm getting one step closer. I'm doing the things I need to be. And again, that adds to so much more, the confidence, the, self-efficacy and what you're doing. You are dialed in to everything, the whole process of what makes the outcome happen. And if you can, guys, girls, anyone listening, can get totally entranced by that and get obsessed with that action and those things, you are going to go far, So we talk about that in goal setting all the time, but those outcome goals are what gets you really motivated. But those process and system based goals are what get you there. And it's, again, one of the hardest things to do. And one of the things I think takes mental toughness is to stay hooked on that, even when it's not going good. It's like, you're like, all right, this is just a phase. Like, I just need to keep doing the basics perfect, doing the things I know in my system to be true, and it's going to work out.
And that's what helps the most too, is when things aren't going good. When things aren't going good and you look at that world champion goal, you're like, holy cow, how am I going to do that? It's not going good. But you keep it simple. And even though it's not going good, your process goals work. I just look at them, read them, make sure I'm doing all those things. And it just, like I said, those are things I can control and do every day. And when I do them, things don't go bad for very long.
Mm-hmm. And usually when it is going not well, you look back at your list and you're like, damn, I didn't do number 4.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't been doing number 4 or whatever. And you're like, oh yeah, I got to fix that. And then it just turns around. That's funny, man. And that's true for anything. I think bull riding, anything in life, just look at the system and process it takes to get there. Not going well, you're probably skipping a step. So go back and check it out. Last question for you, buddy. Anybody that's second guessing investing in themselves, what's a piece of advice you'd have for them? I think you're a perfect person to ask this to, because you have 100% invested in yourself and seen the fruits of the labor. So anyone out there kind of second guessing, say, I'll try it myself, another year, and if it doesn't work, I'll do it. I'll get a coach or whatever. What do you?
If you can't invest in yourself, I don't know what you want to invest in, because you got to believe in yourself. And like I said, I understand, like, coming from times in my life where I didn't have a lot of money, the idea of even paying for coaching or something but it is scary. But at the end of the day, like, you're going to see return on investment. If you invest in, a little advertisement, Champion Living, like I use you guys because I feel better. I ride better since I've been doing it. Same thing with working with a mental coach. Like, it seemed like a lot of money at the time, but when I actually broke it down and was like, man, even you guys, if working with Champion Living helps you stay on one more bull a month or win one more paycheck, it's instant. That's already paying for itself. And a lot of people, I feel like, don't look at it like that, because, everybody's cheap with money and there's things you don't want to spend it on. But if you invest in yourself and do the things that are going to improve whether you're a bull rider, calf roper, that time and money invested is going to show a return in how much you win.
1,000% and over, man. It does. And I'm so glad that you said it. It is kind of scary to invest in that, especially when you're not making a ton of money. But when you look at it as that investment in yourself, and investments make you money in the end, you're going to definitely see the results, and it's going to double your investment, at least every month. So for anyone out there second guessing, getting coaching, whatever it is, if it's fitness, reach out to a coach that's getting the results that you want. Mindset, Paige, check out Paige Lawrence Coaching is her Instagram. It's my sister-in-law. She's an Olympic figure skater. She does an awesome job. She works with a ton of rodeo athletes and a ton of elite rodeo athletes as well. Thanks so much for being on here today, Josh. What's up, Paul?
Yeah, equipment too.
Buy the new bull rope.
Yeah.
You need it. It's going to help.
Yeah.
Josh uses 4 a year, so.
Yeah, no, that puts it into perspective, man. It really does. And so Beastmaster Rodeo.com, you can use our discount code Champion Living, all one word. And then we got to also thank Brave Experience Beef Jerky. They've been with us for this season. They have, the best beef jerky. I love their Buffalo Bites, but a great snack to take on the road. 19 grams of protein per bag. Totally macro friendly. It is supporting our U.S. ranchers, and also proceeds go to to support our veterans as well. Josh, again, thanks so much for being on here today, and everyone else, we'll catch you next time. All right.